Have you ever heard of lack of money is a little bit of a problem? You know what? Lack of money is never, ever a problem. What do I mean by that? Lack of money is simply a symptom of the problem, but it's not the cause of the problem. What the problem really is lack of skill. Have you ever heard stories of lottery winners who suddenly have a windfall of money coming into their lives, millions and millions of dollars, only found themselves a few years later broke, bankrupt, actually sometimes worse off when they were financially? Now, why is that? They have money, but they don't have the skills of the rich. I am rich not because of my money, because I started with no money. I was in debt. I was hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. I am rich because of my skills. So today I'm going to teach you the 7 skills that I have mastered. The 7 skills that I believe you need to understand and master if you want to be rich. Now, as I go through each skill, I want you to ask yourself the question and comment below and rate yourself from a 0 to 10. 0 being like absolutely horrible, like you suck, and 10 being world class. So here we go. Skill number 1, the ability to talk to customers persuasively. I call that closing skill. Do you know how to close? Can you articulate the value of what you do to your potential clients? Do you know how to ask powerful questions that compel people to buy? Are you comfortable talking to strangers, presenting your ideas, demonstrating your product or service? Closing skill, I believe it's one of the most important, if not the most important skills you need to master if you want to be rich. When you're talking to customers, you're closing. When you're talking to vendors, trying to persuade them to give you better terms, guess what? You are closing. When you're talking to your employees, you are closing. So that's skill number 1. The number 2 skill that would make you rich, and that is the ability to speak to groups. I call that public speaking skill. You see, do you know the number 1 fear that most people have in life? It's not snake and it's not even death. The number 1 fear that most people have is public speaking. Now, why do so many people, why are they afraid of speaking to groups most of the time? Because they worry about if they're gonna sound stupid, or how do they look, or they are afraid because they might say something wrong. All these things, but you look at great leaders, almost all great leaders, they're all great public speakers, such as Steve Jobs, right? Such as Tony Robbins, Warren Buffett. One of the skills that changed my life is public speaking. When I joined Toastmasters years ago, because I wanted to improve my English and also reduce my accent, and I was improving myself through public speaking. I developed confidence, self-confidence through public speaking. So ask yourself, are you afraid to speak to groups? Do you know how to present your ideas to groups? Can you communicate with conviction and certainty? Can you interact with your audience? Maybe you get sweaty palms. Maybe you were like me in the beginning, like your face would turn pale, right? Your knees would be locked. That's okay. It is a learnable skill. But in order to be rich, public speaking is one of the most valuable skills that you must master. The third skill that will make you rich, and that is the ability to communicate with words in print, or what I call persuasion in print. I refer that as your copywriting skill. Now notice I said copywriting skill. Now copywriting, I'm not talking about being all grammatically correct, although it's good to do that. But I'm not talking about what you learn in school, the academic writing. I'm talking about communication. I'm talking about maybe it's your webpage, your video. I'm talking about your email. How do you communicate with the written words? Now, why is this so important? Because in day-to-day communication, the emails you send or the social media posts or the agreement, the contract, your LinkedIn post or your blog, a lot of that is written communication. And when you know how to communicate effectively through the written words, it gives you a tremendous amount of leverage. Let me give you a perfect example. Let's say you create a social media post and you have a decent amount of following. That gives you leverage because what you say and what you write, that is seen by hundreds of people, thousands of people. In my case, it could be millions of people. In fact, copywriting is the very first skill that I developed as young Dan Lok, and that's the skill that changed my life. That's how I went from losing money and not making enough money to earning $10,000 a month in my early 20s. So copywriting. Now that is not taught in school. School taught us writing, but it didn't teach us copywriting. So that's skill number 3, the ability to communicate with words in print. Skill number 4, and that is the ability to communicate clearly and effectively with your team. I'm talking about your leadership skill. You see, in order to be an effective leader, you also must be